Hello guys, welcome back to the world of English exams. Today's video is the most requested question type on our website www.worldofenglishexams.com. I can't tell you how many students post requests each and every day to tell the details about this question type, which is multiple choice questions, mainly in the Ielts listening test. So we have come up with a very useful video for you. In this video, we are going to cover all the essential tips and tricks to crack this question type to get all the answers correctly. So today we are going to focus on this question type in detail along with some example questions. So do stay tuned till the end of the video if you want to know and solve multiple choice questions. If you are facing a difficulty getting a score in listening only because of this question type, then not to worry any further, because this video will be immensely helpful to all of you who are looking for this question type. So let's do not delay. Let's start today's video by looking at the format of the listening test. So the listening test is the first of the 4 parts in the Ielts test. There are 4 parts in the test: listening, reading, writing and speaking. This is the first test that is usually conducted. And this test is broadly divided into 4 sections. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3 and Section 4. Then there are 40 questions that you have to attempt in the test, and this is a common test for both the Ielts academic test and the Ielts general training module. So regardless of whether you are taking the academic test or the general training test, you should write the listening. So now the same test is conducted, which means that the questions would contain both academic context, that is more of a formal educational context, and also general everyday discussions. So that is how the division of sections is done. The first section is called a dialogue. So it is a general discussion between 2 speakers. That's why it is named as a dialogue. And you will hear 10 questions ranging from question numbers 1 to 10 in this section. And as I previously mentioned, the discussions are not at all academically related. They are more of a usual everyday conversations. Then moving on to section 2. Section 2 is called a monologue. Mono indicates one and log indicates a talk. So here you will hear a talk which is given by just a single speaker. Only one speaker will be talking throughout. And just like in section 1, section 2 also contains 10 questions. Then section 3, which is the third section, also contains 10 questions from 21 to 30. Now in this section, it is an academic discussion between 2 to 4 speakers who are talking about their university education, something like a seminar or a PowerPoint presentation or a project report or something like that. So the discussion would definitely be about academics. Then section 4 is called a monologue or a university lecture. So this is also completely academic, and it is a lecture which is delivered by one of the professors at a university. So this would also be an academic discussion or an academic talk. So this is how the listening test is divided, and after you hear the 40 questions, you will be given 10 minutes of time to transfer the answers from the question paper to the answer sheet. There will be a designated listening answer sheet given to all the test takers, and you should transfer it within the time of 10 minutes. You will not be given any extra time other than this 10 minutes to transfer the answers. So you need not worry about that because I have already provided an overview of the listening test in which I told you all the essential tips to manage the time. So if you are looking for that video, I will give the link in the description box and you may check it there. So now moving on to specifically the multiple choice questions. There are various types of questions in the listening. The first one is called multiple choice, the second is called fill in the blanks, and the third one is matching. Then we have map labeling, diagram completion and such other question types. We are going to talk about all these question types in detail, and you can find the related videos on our YouTube channel World of English Exams. So let's get into some serious discussion about multiple choice questions. So multiple choice questions basically are divided into 2 broad categories. The first kind of multiple choice question is called multiple choice questions with single option selection. As the name indicates, in this question type you have to select just one option. So this is the type of multiple choice that we are all familiar with, because ever since we were kids we used to remember multiple choice in this format. There used to be a question and followed by 3 or 4 choices, and we used to tick one right option, right? So the same type of question is repeated here. The format is just the same. However, you will see that the options can vary. The number of options may differ. Sometimes you can see 3 options, and other times you can see 4 options. That is the only thing. But in majority of the multiple choice questions with single option, you will see 3 options being given. And guys, before I proceed any further, let me tell you that many students often ask a query that in which section of the listening can they find multiple choice. It is not at all guaranteed. We cannot say that, we cannot predict that, because multiple choice questions can be given in any of the 4 sections. So if you prepare the strategy properly, you can apply it regardless of wherever the question is given, whether it is given in section 1, 2, 3 or 4, you will be ready to attempt these questions. So that's why I am telling you a strategy which is commonly applicable throughout the test wherever you see multiple choice. Okay, so the next type of multiple choice is where you have to choose 2 options. Now this is what is a specific entity which is seen only in the Ielts test. So you will be given 5 options. I repeat, you will be given 5 options from which you have to select 2 right options. And as you will see that these options can be given in any sequence, which means once the audio starts, you should not expect them to hear in an order. So they can be heard in any order or any sequence. And you have to choose 2 right options. And fortunately, there is no negative marking in the IELTS test. So even if you choose the wrong option, you are not going to lose the marks that you have previously obtained. Maybe you will not get the marks for this because you have opted for the incorrect choice, but you will not lose any marks which you have already gained. So please do take a chance. If you are unsure of the answer, do not leave any answer blank. With this opinion of mine, let's proceed to learning about these question types and how you can identify this in the real test. So basically I am going to take some questions from the Cambridge past papers to help you analyze how to identify multiple choice, and then I'll tell you some useful tips. So this is how the sections would look like. The first 2 questions, which are numbered as 17 and 18, let's read the instructions. Choose the correct letter A, B or C, which means there are 3 options given to you after the question, and you need to opt for one right option only. So you are not supposed to choose multiple options. So the answer could be either A or B or C. How can you decide this? So that completely depends on the tips what you are following and the strategy which you follow. Then the 18th question, which reads, the first person to answer 20 quiz questions correctly will win a gym membership, a video or a calendar. So here also we are able to see 3 options, which mean that you have to select one right option from them. So now let's proceed to questions 19 and 20. If you observe the instructions, they are telling us to choose 2 letters A to E. So you can see that the question also reads, which 2 pieces of information does the speaker give about the fitness test? And there are 5 options which are listed. So you have to pick up 2 right options. And as I previously mentioned, these options may not be heard in a sequence. You have to prepare for that. If this preparation is adequate, then definitely you can achieve full marks in multiple choice questions. Now let's see what are the other types of multiple choice. Basically, I have shown you 2 different kinds of multiple choice. The first one is multiple choice with single option selection, but as you can see, the options are smaller ones. Yes. Now the second type is where you have to select 2 options, but there is a third type of multiple choice as well, where the options are bigger. Can you see that for questions like 21, 22 and 25, the options are bigger? So here is when the students would face the management problem for time. They cannot manage the time, and this mismanagement often backfires, guys. So you have to be very careful in reading the questions carefully along with the options. Please do not skip reading the options, as it provides a valuable clue to identify the synonyms. And now let's proceed with the tips. What are the strategies and tips that will be useful to identify and answer these questions correctly? So the first tip, as I always say, read the instructions clearly. Whether you have to choose one option or two options or sometimes three options, how many ever options they are, it will be given in the instructions. So you have to allocate at least 10 seconds of time to read the instructions clearly. You have to understand them. Now moving on to the next useful tip. It is very important to choose the correct number of options. So if you are, instead of choosing two options, if you are choosing, let's say, three options, then definitely you will be missing the order and the number of questions, which will definitely lead to lower band scores. So in order to avoid that, you have to read the instructions once again. Now talking about the third useful tip. A lot of additional non-essential information will be heard. This happens not just for multiple choice but for all the question types in listening. You will hear a lot of information which you essentially don't require to answer the questions. But what do we do? Unfortunately, we focus more on these unnecessary details, and this will often lead us to pick the wrong option. So, and here there is one more problem, that this non-essential information may sometimes be stressed more, and if the speaker is emphasizing more on one particular piece of information, then we are prone to pay attention to that, which is not at all required in the test. So be careful not to read or not to listen to non-essential information. For that, you have to mark the keywords properly. So what are these keywords and how you can mark them? I am going to teach you as we progress. Come on, let's go to the next tip. Remember that all the options will be heard. This is the problem encountered by 99% of the candidates. All the options, whether there are 3 options or 4 options or 5 options, all of them will be heard. So then the question comes as to how to pick the right answer when we hear all the options. So we are going to look at that, how to solve it. I am going to list it in the useful tips. Then when you will not hear the exact words as seen in the question paper. So let's get back to the question paper, which states that there are so many different options and the question also contains various words. Let's see the 18th question, for example. The first person to answer 20 quiz questions correctly will win. Now instead of telling the first person, they may tell the winner who will answer all the questions in the fastest amount of time, or the you can tell that the minimum amount of time. So you have to synonymize it to the first person. Like that, you have to expect synonyms. You can't just wait for hearing the option that is given exactly in the question paper. That is a very, very useful strategy, guys. Look for synonyms. Then, as I already stressed, the options are not heard in a sequence, so you have to be very careful while attempting multiple choice questions. Then focus on the audio. Sometimes the answers may be changed immediately. So this is the hurdle which is obstructing you from getting that magical score of 9 in listening. Because you are not focusing on the audio, maybe you might be selecting the first choice whichever you hear in the audio, thinking that it might be the right answer, but not always. Sometimes they may use words like but, however, nevertheless. So let me give you an option, an example for this. We are going to a museum. Oh no, let's postpone that to another day. Today let's relax. So what have you seen? The options are immediately changed or switched. So you have to be very, very careful. Please listen to the entire context before marking the correct answer. You will see that all the options are heard and all the options will be played and they might not be in an order. So you have to focus till you hear the whole context in the audio. Then as I was just mentioning, do not confirm the answer without hearing the total context. You have to hear the speaker's complete discussion before confirming or affirming the right answer. Now let's look at the next strategy for cracking multiple choice. Mark the keywords. These will help to find the right answers. So along with the keywords, which are nouns, adjectives and verbs, these three parts of speech are often regarded as the most important parts of speech in the listening test. Not just in listening, but for reading, writing, as well as speaking. Whenever you want to focus and talk about something or use the language properly, you need to use parts of speech. And for the IELTS test, the major ones are nouns, adjectives and verbs. That's why they are called key words, important words or significant words. So along with that, a very useful tip will be to mark the tense of the question. Yes, so this is the secret clue. Whenever you are answering multiple choice questions, generally we just skim the question, we just look at it at a glance and then we look at the options. But sometimes the answer will lie in the tense of the question. So if the question is in the future tense, the option which has to be selected also should correspond in the appropriate tense. Only then you can confirm that that is the right answer. For example, if the question statement contains tenses like, let's say it contains a word called does, which means definitely it is in the present tense. If it contains a word like, let's say, probably, possibly, likely, so all these words are indicators of the future tense. So immediately, if you are able to catch that within the first 10 seconds, then surely you are going to score well in multiple choice. And I hope that these 10 magical tips have really helped you to understand the in and out of multiple choice questions. And after you practice with the audio with following these tips, I hope everyone can solve multiple choice questions accurately. So if you found this video useful, please do like this, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel World of English Exams. So till I see you with the next informative video, happy preparation guys, and stay tuned to our YouTube channel World of English Exams. Thank you.